Again, why not try my last name? Good evening, everyone. So President Trump said he would back the killing of Iran's new leader if he doesn't agree to the U.S. demands. And if bombs don't work, he's got a guy. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth said the Iran incursion will soon, quote, bring the enemy to their knees. Well, guess who just enlisted? Hegseth also said Iran has no choice but to surrender, warning the alternative would be tragic, meaning he would have to return to Fox and Friends weekend. Those were the days. The lives of Iranian women's soccer team may be in danger after refusing to sing their national anthem. To ensure their identities are completely unknown, they've asked for asylum in the WNBA. Paul McCartney, you know, he was in the Beatles, claims that Yoko Ono once told him she thought John Lennon might be gay. But Paul assured her it's normal for heterosexual males to decline sex with Yoko Ono. That was a good joke. You people are quiet tonight. I'm gonna have to throw some water on you. All right, Mayor Mamdani's wife, Rama, is facing backlash for liking Instagram posts celebrating the October 7th attack on Israel. While many people were shocked, others note that on Facebook, she listed her favorite comedy as Schindler's List. I know. Even more troubling, she still has her decorations up from 9/11. Yeah, that's the response I wanted.
Too soon.
The Ford Motor Company announced it's giving the Pope a custom Explorer. It was built in Chicago, and the Pope will receive it once they get the wheels back. And finally, thanks to a new real estate deal, President Trump's name will be on the tallest skyscraper in Australia. Meanwhile, former President Joe Biden's name will be featured on a structure that's much closer to the ground. Hey, we're all going to end up there, right? Delicious. Okay. So what's the latest from Donald Trump regarding the war with Iran? I wonder, are we crushing the enemy in an overwhelming display of technical skill in military force?
We're crushing the enemy in an overwhelming display of technical skill and military force, and will not relent until the enemy is totally and decisively defeated. Iran was supposed to be this big, powerful country. We wrapped the hell out of them. And, you know, I don't know when they cry uncle, but they should have cried it 2 days ago, right? I don't want to brag, but, you know, they've said this about a lot of things. No other president could do some of the I'm doing.
You said it. No other president could do some of the I'm doing. Although one ex-president said, that's not true. All I did was Meanwhile, on Truth Social, Trump told Iran that if they mess with tankers in the Strait of Hormuz, he'll unleash death, fire, and fury, which is quite a contrast with the last administration who couldn't unleash Curly, Moe, and Larry. But that's Trump using language our enemies used on us for decades. Trump is a really good tyrant whisperer, happily old school in his persuasion, bombing them with rhetoric and real bombs. Previous presidents were like AM radio, all talk. Biden said that Putin looked into his eyes, he saw resolve, when the Russian was really wondering, are those cataracts? How is this babushka still alive? And when Obama said, the violence has to end, it was after Michelle smacked him for burning dinner. With Trump, there's no, we've established a red line and suggest you don't cross it or we'll send a strongly worded letter. Also, don't stub your toe on this pallet of cash. Instead, it's, if you F us, we're going to blow you to hell. Of course, there's criticism from the usual clowns.
Trump said the war will only stop after Iran's unconditional surrender, to which Iran replied, that's a dream America should take to their grave. Okay, that's spooky. And metal as hell.
When your best friend was a pedophile and you're losing bigly in the swing states, I'll tell you what you do. You fire the weapons of mass distraction.
Basically, we are sending people in to lose their lives. Now we're in the same position with someone who doesn't seem to care that human beings are being sent to war.
You know, it's funny that ABC is now considering The View a news program, which is like mistaking the Hallmark Channel for Pornhub. But it's a reminder of what everyone should do when they hear the opinions of anyone in the media. Go back and check their opinions on other things, because they're probably just as stupid. For example, where were they when the commander-in-chief was humping the steps of Air Force One or trying to use his auto pen as a suppository? Where were they on Russian collusion, a report as bogus as Dylan Mulvaney's pap smear? Hunter's laptop, the worst homemade porn since Pelosi does Dallas. The border, trans, crime. Come on, people. They were wrong on everything. They make Jim Cramer look like Miss Cleo. And that creates a new world in which it feels like Trump no longer has the traditional opposition in the shape of the Democrats or the media. It's not that they don't exist, it's that they don't matter. They squandered all their credibility by being wrong on everything. And because of that, you are no longer required to listen to them. Because before, they lied to you, they betrayed you, they tried to ruin your life. So it feels like there's a new duopoly brewing, and it's shaping up between Trump and independent media. What has replaced legacy media in the role of the questioner of those in power. I'm talking about Greenwald, Tim Dillon, Rogan, Carolla, Theo Vaughn, Red Scare, Megyn Kelly. Even though I disagree strongly with most of them, at least I trust them to be honest, because they aren't covering for anyone and they aren't beholden to a party, at least yet. But when I hear Morning Joe or CNN, it's the pounding of a pool boy against my cellar door. I just don't hear it. But what gets through to me? Bill Maher, Dave Rubin, Brett Weinstein, a very special episode of 1,000-Pound Sisters. With big issues like war, the Biden presidency made the entirety of legacy media irrelevant. All you have left is Fox and a growing, powerful mass of independent voices. So instead of complaining about the death of media, rejoice. Debate has never found more legitimate paths to daylight. Let's welcome tonight's guest. She's only here tonight because she got the night off from Dairy Queen. Elections correspondent at the Federalist, Brianna Lyman. His customers ask for extra hair in their food. Chef and restaurant owner Andrew Gruel. She loves White Claws because they remind her of her feet. New York Times bestselling author and Fox News contributor, Cat Tube. And even squids say he's got a lot of ink. Former NWA world champion, host of the Planet Iris podcast, Tyrus. Brianna, you're too young to remember, I don't know, the Iraq War. What were you born? 10?
1998.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so you were like 6. But the point is, there used to be some kind of like, there'd be an administration and the opposition, which would be the party and the media. It seems like there's a huge hole there. It's like none of the stuff that they're saying seems to matter. Mm-hmm. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's true. Look, the most of the corporate left-wing press should be thought of as the propaganda press. They are there to cheer on what Democrats do and to slander whatever Republicans do. And when you hear people like Whoopi Goldberg and the rest of them you just play talk, remember, none of them have access to these intelligence briefings. None of them know what President Trump was informed of last week before he made this decision to strike. And so anything they say should be taken with a grain of salt. And I understand that, conservative media commentators may give their opinion, but they don't ever act like it is the final word, right? They always leave room for open discussion.
That's what it is. Yeah. Exactly. Because, none of those guys get any intel either. But for some reason, it's not offensive to you. Right. It's not, oh, I hate Trump, so my reflex is just to criticize him. Mm-hmm. That's right. Andrew, why is that? I'll listen to people like Rogan and Tim Dillon go off against the war. Doesn't bother me.
Doesn't bother me
Yeah,
at all.
in fact, I really like hearing it. Why is it I can handle that, but when I listen to these jackasses, I'm like, I don't need to hear this.
I know, there's nothing like the sound of that horrible cackle before somebody chokes on a bucket of fried chicken from The View, which is basically what we're getting. There's also a fetish, right? There's a political fetish for rooting against America because of Trump. And that fetish is going overboard nowadays. It's like political asphyxiation. But with these groups, okay, I break it down into 3 different groups. And you can do this on X as well. It's a fun exercise. It's called Hypocrisy Today. So you kind of have the neocons, the libertarians, and then the hard left. And the neocons have always been for war. Take Ukraine as the filter. They're drumming up war for Ukraine, and they're drumming up war right now for Israel and Iran. The libertarians have always been against war. So while I agree and disagree with some of the nuance in those in that conversation, then you have the hard left. They wanted war with Ukraine. They were so excited about war. They were bloodthirsty. But now, with Trump, it's like, how dare he do that? How dare he send people in there? They have no principles. Nothing is rooted in anything besides their political dogma, which is just basically fake religion.
Interesting. You know, Kat, you know, it's funny. When somebody does something really bad for, like, say, a couple of years ago, then the consequences you often don't see until later. And I think that's what we're seeing from the media's cover-up of Joe Biden. Now the consequences for them are showing up now, where no one can believe them, even if what they might say could be correct, but we can't trust them.
Absolutely. And I think I agree with everything that you said. I have seen far too many tweets, just in general, first of all, but I've seen far too many tweets being up in arms about this war, which everyone knows I have concerns about, but from people who have the Ukraine flag in their bio still. And for me, that's just really a microcosm of what you were saying, where it's like, okay, for you, it really is just about politics, and that's so transparent. And I think it is transparent for a lot of these people, where if you really were concerned for the sake of being concerned, then you might have been concerned about that one, but really you're only concerned here. For me, I've been very consistent on these concerns, and the independent people who you mentioned, they've been consistent on theirs as well, and I do like being able to follow those people. And you do have to wonder at this point, now people can get their news from wherever they want, however they want. They don't have to tune in to something just because it's the only thing on.
Especially if there was the difference between, let's say, legacy media was that they did reporting. But they don't even do that anymore. They just do commentary, and you get better commentary from podcasts.
They'll do reporting, but they'll make up their mind first on what it is that they want the reporting to find, and then they will go and find that but that's not real reporting. They're not looking for answers. They have the answers first, and they're looking for a way to bulk up what they already think they know.
I thought I was the only one who did that.
What, bulking up?
Yeah. Tyrus, what have I not brought up?
Your height.
Oh, now you're awake. You're half asleep through the monologue, and short joke. Short joke. Get out of here! I'm kidding.
You know what vexes me is the outcry. This war with Iran's been, we're at day 12, day 11, or something like that, and they're screaming, when's it going to be over? Where were these voices during Ukraine? Isn't Ukraine still going on?
4 years.
But yet they're not saying. And you know what the difference between the support is, I notice, is because there's no money coming out of the Senate to go anywhere. So they're against it because there's no profit for them.
Yeah.
Because don't we have money missing from the Ukraine too?
Yeah.
Like, it's just amazing the stuff that they are willing to get behind always seems to have a dollar mark on it somewhere. They have to vote for funds to go somewhere, and then they're all buying, and they wear the little badge. Maybe the reason why they still have their little things up is they ain't got paid yet. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're still like, hey, don't forget me. Whereas Trump, the way he's been doing things since he's been he's made sure that none of them can profit off it. And that's probably the biggest outrage. And they're going to be really up because like I said, I made a prediction on the last time I was on the 5. I said this isn't going to last long, and it looks like it. Like, they're laying waste to Iran in a very selective, intelligent, highly functioned thing, to the point where all the Middle Eastern we saw today where Hezbollah had their own nation turn on them publicly, which never happens. They will never come out and say, they're like, nope, they need to go.
Yeah.
You know, it's the same thing when they should have told the real story when they named the successor for the Ayatollah. Because all they had to do was watch Talladega Nights.
Yeah.
That's all it was. Because I guarantee you he was sitting in the office going, don't you put that on me. No, I'm not in charge. You in charge. Because as soon as you're in charge, you know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
It's literally going to be Bugs Bunny walking by. Here you are, sweetheart. And you're going to be holding the TNT and you're going to be gone. So this has been an effective way to do things without involving.
Yeah.
And that's what the outrage is really about. Because we never have heard a damn thing from any of them about why Ukraine is taking so long. Why are we still funding?
Why we're
are we
okay
doing
with
this?
it?
Why are we fine with it?
Yeah.
You know, when's the last time they sent one of their people out there to say, what's going on the ground? We don't see anything.
Yeah,
So
we're
it's
getting
just-
some out of that, definitely.
Exactly.
We're also learning how all the weapons works without like having to do the heavy work. And then we're using that technology. But that's another story for another time. And I wouldn't want to bore you with that.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.